Well, howdy. It's 2024, almost 2025, and that's disgusting to think about. And if you haven't looked around recently, we are in a brand new digital age. Everything's faster, more connected, shareable, watchable, you name it. But here's a question for you. When was the last time you did something good and oddly satisfying for your brain without a digital screen in front of you? And I'm not talking about like opening up a giant box, but more like picking up a piece of paper and sitting in a quiet room with no digital distractions, and you just wrote your thoughts down. It could be very therapeutic. It's funny though, these feelings that I'm talking about, they're almost foreign to me at this point. Doing and admiring things that are super tactile and appreciating the physical world now that we're surrounded by a digital one. Like the feeling of writing down your to-do list on a piece of paper. It's almost like you're engraving it in your brain to remember. Or adding your own ingredients to a recipe that you found online. It just tastes a little bit better making it yourself from scratch than to just buy the finished product straight up. Well, if you're a photographer or just crazy like me and think about this stuff in the shower, then maybe you'll appreciate my brand new giant heavy toy that I got. This right here is the Canon Pro-1100 photo printer, and I'm super excited to start printing my own artwork. It's something that I've been wanting to experiment with for a long time, and now I finally have the chance to physically touch and admire and do a little bit more digging on my own photography work. So in this video, we're going to set up this printer. Disclaimer, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. This is my first time doing this. So we're gonna learn together and we're gonna run some prints through. We're going to see what's possible when we print our own artwork, and I'm going to give my personal opinion on this printer's performance. And yeah, let's get started. So off the bat, this thing's actually not that bad to set up. It just prompted me to plug it in, power it on, and now on the LCD display on the printer, it's telling me to start inserting the ink. And we insert the ink on the bottom here. This printer uses 12 assorted ink cartridges. It uses Canon's PFI 4100 type ink. So I'm gonna start unwrapping all these and putting them in the printer. So this Canon printer is actually the same body and chassis as well as nozzle as the Canon Pro-1100, and that printer was released back in 2015, so it's been a little while and it was time for some new upgrades to its features, like its fast connectivity and speed. This printer can print up to a 17 by 22 borderless print, which is actually really big and really nice for just an amateur photo printer like myself. Now the proof will be in the pudding, but Canon claims that this printer is one of their finest. And supposedly this printer adds a slightly more contrast, especially to black and white prints, than the Pro-1000 did. So now that all the ink cartridges are in, it's telling me on the display that not all the protective material was removed. So open the top cover. So it's nice to know that this printer is pretty dummy proof and it'll walk you every step of the way to set it up. And actually on this orange piece, it even has a little icon, I don't know if you can see that, that says to throw it away. I can do that. Now it looks like we're pretty much set and ready to go. It should be mentioned that this printer had its print head or print nozzle separately, so I'll probably have to insert this guy in there, but she's booting up. In saying all that, the printer just directed me to insert the actual print nozzle into the top of the printer. It's telling me to close the cover, so I think we're good to go. And believe it or not, that's about all there really is to setting up this printer. It was just a few easy steps once all the ink and the nozzle was put in the correct spots. The printer instructed me to print this calibration test sheet so that the nozzle is now ready to go, ready to print. I installed the software and the proper drivers so that the printer could communicate with my computer. The printer actually communicates via Wi-Fi. It can print from my phone, it can print from my computer, iPad, whatever I want, which is really nice. And we're pretty much ready to go. There's plenty of settings to talk about in the actual printer that I am not 100% certain what they all mean yet, and so maybe I'll do another video of a more in-depth look on how to set up your printer to be the most efficient for your needs. But for now, we're just gonna start throwing prints through here. And while we're waiting for some of these prints to come through, I want to talk to you guys about why you should even consider printing your artwork in the first place. Wait, I also forgot to mention, at the end of this video, I'm going to go through the entire process, where to install all the hardware for your computer to start printing. I'm also going to share how to take your photos from Lightroom or Photoshop, prepare them for printing, and then actually send them to print, and we will see the final results. I sort of touched on it already, but one of the main reasons why I even considered starting printing my own photographs, that it allows for a different perspective to your photography. Images on a screen are great, but just the sheer amount of detail in a physical print is truly unmatched, which can help with analyzing your strengths and your weaknesses in your photography, or even highlight spots that you might want to retouch or re-edit. You truly gain an extra level of appreciation in the fine art category when we start talking about printing, and that's something that I want to explore. And then there comes a point where, as an artist, you might want to sell your work or give them away as gifts. A lot of people call the gift of photography one of the biggest reasons why they do photography at all in the first place. And being able to capture a memory or a creative moment in time and have it live on a piece of paper in a beautiful frame forever is truly a special piece. And fine art prints are no joke. There's a lot to appreciate about another photographer's work hanging in your home or office that really means something to you, especially if there's a limited series of photos printed available. Now in my hands, I have my first official print on the Pro 1100, and if you've been paying attention, it's actually 9 pictures that were printed on this one single piece of photo paper. What this is a reference sheet. This is a really cool thing that the Canon software offers. It allows you to print different variations of the same picture, but with slight different settings. For these images, I adjusted the brightness and the contrast. And so the one on the top left has more brightness but less contrast. The one on the bottom right has less brightness and more contrast. And so I can pick my favorite image from the bunch and then set the parameters for the actual print that I'm going to do at this scale. This saves me the hassle of printing multiple times and wasting my ink trying to figure out what the best settings and printing parameters are. And so based off of this reference sheet, I think I know what parameters I'm going to go for. And so I'm going to start getting this print cooking, and while that's going, I'm going to start walking through how to start printing on your Pro 1100, as well as share a little bit of my process on the back end on how I got this photo ready to print. So once your Pro 1100 is set up, it's plugged in, powered on, all the ink is set, ready to go. Now we need to prepare our computer to be able to connect and send all of our photos that we want to print to the printer. So there's 2 things we need to download. Both the links to follow along will be in the description. The first link will take you to this site, ijmanual.canon, blah, 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 blah. You want to find the printer that we're using. So we want to go down to Pro Series, Pro 1100, and download this driver. This is going to be how your computer actually connects to the printer. So just download this. In this case, it detected that I was on a Mac OS. If you're running on a PC, it should be able to detect that you're on a PC. So yeah, just download this, follow all the prompts. It'll walk you through. And then once everything's downloaded, open it up, and you should be able to find your printer, connect to it, and you'll be ready to start printing on that end. The second thing that we need to download is actually where we're going to prepare our images to print. We are connected right now, but we need a spot to be able to prepare the prints, get all the settings accordingly, make sure we can input the paper that we want to use, all the right profile settings, and so on and so forth. The best software that I've found so far is on Canon's website. Again, the links are in the description. So we're going to the Pro 1100 webpage here. And if we go down in software and drivers, we want to find the program Professional Print and Layout. And we want to find the latest version of it and download it. Just make sure that you're running on your latest system. If you're on PC, make sure that these are selected as PC, because you want to make sure you download the right thing to run on your computer. Once that's downloaded, open it up, and that's one of the main steps for getting ready to print. So here is the photo that I want to print. Right now it's in Photoshop. It started in Lightroom. I sent it to Photoshop, made any final adjustments that I wanted to make, and now I love where this photo's at and I want to send it to be printed. So we're not actually going to send it out of Photoshop necessarily. We're going to first save this image as a TIFF file. A TIFF file is just a super high resolution image that is preferred when we're talking about printing. And so once your photo is where you want it to be, make sure it's cropped to the exact spec you want it to be, depending on the size of your paper and so on. And then we want to go to File, Save As, and then save it anywhere on your computer. And then just make sure we have it saved as format TIFF, format TIFF. For all these TIFF options, you can pretty much just leave them as normal, and that's all you have to do in Photoshop. So now that your Photoshop TIFF file is saved, now we want to open Professional Print and Layout, and you'll most likely be greeted by this sort of screen here. So first things first, we want to make sure we are connected to the right printer. So on the top right here, we have our printer settings, and if you have all your settings saved and you want to just keep using these same settings, you can save your settings as sort of like a preset, which is super nice. So right here I have my printer connected, my Pro-1100, and then we want to select our media type. So what type of paper are we going to print on? What size are we going to print on? For my first prints, I'm using the Pro Luster pack that actually came included in the Canon 1100, which is great. And so for media type, I want to click this and find Photo Paper Pro Luster, because that's what we got. And then we want to do our paper size, and so this is 8.5 by 11, so that's correct. And then depending on if we want to have a border or not is good. Print quality, you can set it to be super extreme. But now I want to actually see how our image looks and what we are going to be looking at for our actual print. So let's import our image by going to File, Open, and then locating our TIFF file here, and then hitting open. So it's actually imported the image, but we don't see it yet, okay? So it's on the left side of our screen here. All we have to do is set the number of prints that we want to make. And so in this case, we just want to make one print, hit 1, and there we go. So this is exactly how it would come out if we were to print it right now. It's going to have this big white border, but obviously it's horizontal, and we don't want it to be horizontal. So if we set this to vertical by clicking on this bottom A icon here, there we go. So this is how the photo would come out if we feed it horizontally, or we feed it vertically, sorry. It's going to have this big white border, and you can choose if you want a border or not. You can do it a couple different ways. For one, you can do borderless printing. So clicking on that, that'll expand it to fill up the entire image. You could also make it different size in Photoshop if you wanted to. Pretty much the default settings, like I said, when you import your image should be, pretty close to what you want. And when all of that is set to go, we can then look at our color settings. So if I click on color settings here, here's where I can adjust some of the print settings that might change from an actual computer screen to your print. So brightness is a huge one. You can see how that changes our image, as well as contrast. Now, if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, you can do what I did, which is have a bunch of different samples of your final image, and then you can kind of pick from the lot and pick out the one that you like the best, and then set your parameters in your brightness and your contrast accordingly to the one that you like. To do that, we're going to go down in our color settings tab to pattern print, and then here we have all the different patterns to choose from. You can have it be large, so these are very large jumps in between all of our patterns. Make sure these are all zeroed out though. The image in the center is going to be 0, 0, meaning that's exactly the same image that we imported. And then if we go to the right, we have our brightness at 0, but the contrast is boosted. To the left, the brightness is the same, but the contrast is lessened. You can add more samples by changing the pattern size, medium, and then small. So this gives you a million different options to choose from, and you can really see a grand layout of what your print might come out to be. Right now I have it on brightness and contrast, but you can also do color if you want to do slight color shifts. It doesn't need to be this drastic. You can make them very minor. But yeah, these are all great ways to prep and make sure you have your photo exactly the way you want it before you actually make a large scale print, because it's going to use a lot of ink, it takes a lot of time, and it can cost you some money. Once we're happy with either of these, you can then hit print. It's going to communicate with your printer as long as it is on. Just make sure the paper is on the top tray, and it's going to start printing. It took about 4, maybe 5 minutes to print just your regular 8.5 by 11 image, which is pretty good, and I can see me burning through a lot of paper. And that's kind of all there is to it on the printing side. Of course, you can go really deep into all of these program settings to find the exact right specs for each individual image and all, but for me, I really didn't change much on my first print. And now I am proud to unveil my very first photography print on the Pro-1100. And maybe I'll sound a bit biased, or I'm just riding a bit of a high because I'm so excited. This printer is awesome. It's hard to believe the level of detail that this printer is able to retain, especially in the highlights and in the shadows. All the colors look flawless. I see zero artifacts or smudging or anything, especially around the borders. All around, I am super impressed. All around. Not only by the photo itself or the print itself, but by the actual machine behind it all. The entire process from start to finish, it was not as scary as I thought it would be. I really do feel like no matter your skill level, if you're professional, if you're just looking to start printing, this printer is a great first step. There's so much to it, and that it can be very intimidating. This is why this is a profession all in its own, printing of photography. Just the scale of options when it comes to any type of printer paper that you want to use, any kind of color profile, any adjustments, it's all there at your fingertips, and the only limit is what you really can come up with. And of course the price of ink, which is outrageous, but I digress. The printer is not cheap. I am very aware of that, but for the level of quality and professionalism that this holds, it really is a fair price in my eyes. I'm just super excited to start printing and experimenting in every single facet of this craft. And if you guys are interested in getting your hands on one of these printers, I'll have a link in the description. They are limited quantity right now. They're a little bit hard to come by, but if you happen to find one, it gets the Andrew Kanya thumb of approval, and I really do feel like you should jump on it. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you have any questions about the printer or the printing process, please leave me a comment down below. I'll try and answer them to the best that I can. I'm still new to this, but I will very quickly learn because I don't think I'm sleeping tonight. I'm just going to be playing with my new giant toy. Or if you have any suggestions about how to make my printing better, I would love to hear those as well. And if you liked this video, please hit the like button. It lets me know that you guys like this type of content and makes me want to keep creating as well. If you would consider hitting the subscribe button. I'm on the road to 100 subscribers. To many people that's not much, but to me that's huge. It's awesome to embark on this journey with you guys, and the amount of love and support that I've gotten already on this channel has already blown me away, and I'm loving where we're going. So if you could do that, I would really appreciate it. And with that, I think it's time for me to get back to more printing, so I will see you guys next time.